This is Laura DeFranco, holistic physical therapist and owner of Brave Healer Productions. I'm excited to bring you my new holistic healing series where you're going to learn from the experts what it means to live fiercely alive, mind, body, and soul. I invite you now to take a breath, relax, and feel the vibe of the words my guest has to share with you today. Welcome, everybody, to a very special episode. I am interviewing the authors of a new book, The Wellness Universe Guide to Complete Self-Care, 25 Tools for Happiness. This is the second book in a series put out by The Wellness Universe and Miss Anna Pereira, the founder of The Wellness Universe. You guys can find her at thewellnessuniverse.com. And I cannot wait to introduce you to 4 of our amazing authors today. Hi, authors. Welcome.
Hey.
Hi.
Hi.
So I have Miss Birgit Lueders. She is a master herbalist, iridology instructor, and wellness coach. She regularly speaks at national and international expos and on radio and TV. She's the co-author of the #1 Amazon bestseller, Unstoppable Women. In February 2020, Birgit was nominated to the president of the International Iridology Practitioners Association. I also have Mr. David McLeod with me. He's a best-selling author, transformational speaker, life mastery coach, experiential facilitator, and writer and storyteller. As a certified master life coach, David shares wisdom, insights, personal lessons, and expertise in countless ways that help people all over the world to become true masters of their lives. Also, please help me welcome Ilene Dillon. She recovered angry person. Ilene Dillon has helped people create fulfilling lives for half a century. I think you get the winning gold award for best opening bio line, Ilene. Seriously. Transformational specialist or transformation specialist, international speaker, international best-selling author, coach, and emotional master. Ilene shows people how to use emotions and everyday experiences to learn profound lessons, creating lasting changes for living manipulation-free and spirit-based lives. And lastly, I have Pam McDonel. She's a licensed and certified massage therapist and massage therapy therapist. She integrates EFT tapping, Reiki, and energy healing into her client sessions, blending traditional and alternative modalities with natural intuitive abilities and gentle touch. Pam supports and empowers clients to awaken the body's innate healing and achieve wellness. Whoa. Okay, so you guys can feel it, right? The power I have in this room right now, it's pretty amazing. Thank you all so much for being here. Seriously, thank you for saying yes to this project and for being willing to take on the challenge of sharing your authentic story and also offering a practical tool to our readers. I think it's the magic of this book, both things combined. And it really takes a warrior in my book to step up and write it in words out loud for the world. I want to start tonight's party about happiness with Birgit and ask you, Birgit, tell me a little bit about what the pursuit of happiness means to you personally, and a little bit about this amazing chapter that you wrote.
Well, thank you for having me. And when I got the option to be part of this book, I was immediately thinking about what does it mean for me to be happy? And I realized that for me, the ultimate happiness is to enjoy happiness on an ordinary day. And to do so, you need to have a really positive vibration throughout the whole body. So that brings me back now to my tip in this book was that I wanted to go deeper into my assessment tool, which is called iridology. And iridology is the assessment of your iris color and fiber structure. And the iridologists figure out the mapping of the meaning of how your pigments in a specific area have a specific meaning. So what that means is to really enjoy an ordinary day completely, utterly feeling happy without anything majorly happening. That means you have to be in an ultimate health, emotional, physical, and spiritual health. And this is exactly what I tried to do in my book. I was um, dividing the whole chapter into what does it mean to be physically happy? What does it mean to be emotionally happy? And what does it mean to be spiritually happy? And I give a few little insights from specific signs in the eyes. But just to make it short, the chapter is that we have a DNA imprinted into our eyes that shows where our weaknesses and strengths are in each area of it, in the emotional happiness, in the physical and the spiritual.
So I've learned just enough about iridology to be dangerous, right? So, I have a question about this. Do your eyes change? Like if I had a reading today, would a month from now be different so I could see progress?
Unfortunately, that was the old iridology belief. And as you said, I'm the president of the International Iridology Association. Lots of things have changed since the 1970s. 1970s, we didn't have any digital cameras. So people assumed they saw changes. But what the change really was when people did what we said was that they had brighter white sclera. The white part in your eyes makes the color sometimes look brighter, or it has the illusion that it changed. And so I have to say, no, it's not, because it's actually your DNA print. And that's why the FBI uses it as a scanner, not your fingerprint to scan your eyes. But where is the change then? You can feel the change instantly once you know how to navigate through your own DNA to make it better.
So talk to me a little bit more about your personal journey with happiness. What was a turning point for you?
So my happiness came from that point that very early on, I lost my dad on pancreatic cancer. It was like I was like 26, and it was 2 months before my own wedding. So that was where I kind of got introduced very early to realizing, you know what, life is not that long. And it can change in any minute. Most people at that age are still like, in other way of thinking, not like me with 26 thinking already at the end of my life. And that made me realize I want to enjoy every single day of my life, not kind of like in a crazy happiness, but smelling the roses and seeing the glass half full.
I love that, Birgit. Thank you so much. David, I'm going to move to you next for the same question. What has the pursuit of happiness meant to you personally? And tell us about the amazing chapter that you wrote.
Well, thank you. So I think for me personally, the notion of happiness is, it's something that I guess I was very confused about for the greater part of my life. I thought that's what we had to do, is we actually had to go out somewhere out there and get it. That it was somehow an object or an elixir or some kind of a special potion or something like that we had to go out and achieve somehow in order to bring it into our lives. And what I discovered over the course of my life was that pursuit actually was a complete illusion, because no matter what sorts of things I was able to obtain in my life, whether they be, the physical things like a house, a car, all the so-called trappings of successful life, money in the bank, all that kind of stuff, none of it ever really made me happy. It wasn't until I started, doing some personal growth work that I began to realize that happiness is just a natural state that we all have. And the pursuit is silliness, because really it's all right here. It's inside. And I think what I have come to understand is that what we're really pursuing is pleasure, which is not quite the same as happiness. We think that if we can go out there, maybe, temporarily fulfill some kind of a want or a desire that we have, that's going to make us happy. And we got this crazy idea in our heads that that's what we have to do. So for me personally, I mistook this notion of pleasure with the notion of happiness, and I thought they were the same thing. And so I think how this played out in my life was I, at the very early age, kind of gave up the truth of who I am because of something that my mom said to me when I was only 3 years old. But I didn't know I had done that. You know, she told me, I know you better than you know yourself. Well, I believed it. I thought that must be true because mom's telling me, and mom always tells the truth, right? And so consequently, that belief became a bigger belief. I figured if mom knows me better than I know myself, then so does dad, so does grandma, so does grandpa, so do my uncles, so do my aunts. And soon enough, pretty much everybody in the whole world knew me better than I knew myself. As a result of that, I basically gave myself up. And it started to get more and more angry over the course of time in my life because I could see that some people didn't seem to have that same limitation that I believed I had. So it's a pretty complex story. It certainly played out in a lot of different ways in my life. But ultimately, by the time I was 40 years old or so, that's when, you know, the whole wake-up call happened, and it was time for me to get out of this thing. And basically, that's what I write about in the book.
Yeah, the wake-up call it's something that we're all going to talk about in a minute here. We're going to talk about the tie-in with awareness. And I know that part of your wake-up call was just that realization, right? And so I wanted you to just kind of speak to the timing. We all would wish that it would happen a lot sooner, right? But what do you want to say about that?
Well, I think, yes, I wished it had happened sooner for me. That is true. However, I also have come to realize that each of us has our own journey to follow. And for me personally, I think it was necessary for me to go through all the changes that I went through in the order I went through them in order to be able to construct my message and be connected to my own happiness the way I am now. Each of us here on this panel has had our own journey. And we've all had our own interactions with happiness in the pluses and in the minuses. And consequently, we have come to the place where we have a message to deliver to people, which is why we are part of this book. All of us have a message to deliver. And, you know, while I think the basic substance of our message is the same, the actual details for getting there is different for each of us. And that's what really makes this such an amazing book.
Yes, no doubt. And definitely, I'm a believer in the divine timing. I think it's one of the biggest gifts to realize that everything that you have gone through was placed there in perfect timing, right on time for you to get to the place you are now, which is helping other people, right? So thank you, David.
Yeah, well, some people actually believe that we create this for ourselves, even before we come here onto the physical plane. Well, that's kind of an interesting idea, too.
It is. I've heard about that. Ilene, you're up next with this. Talk to us about happiness in terms of, you know, what it's meant to you and a bit about your chapter.
Well, it's interesting to listen to everyone else. I'm enjoying myself. I personally started out in the -0 range regarding happiness. It was not even on my screen. You know, I had a really rough childhood, and my life was about coping and surviving. And so I didn't think about happiness at all. And when you know, I became a therapist and I wanted my clients to be happy. So I started eventually thinking about happiness, and I realized I didn't have an idea what happiness was. You know, how do you find happiness when you aren't really, you know, it's kind of like what you were saying, David, you know, when you're not quite used to what it is, you know, is that happiness or is that just pleasure? What is going on here? And so I kept looking for it. And that's what caused me to run into people. I started searching, just as I searched to stop being an angry person. I began to search. And I found the Dalai Lama, and the name of my chapter is The Dalai Lama's Smile. Because, you know, the Dalai Lama kind of inspired me because he too had a miserable life. He was supposed to be the head of government and the spiritual head of the country of Tibet, and China destroyed Tibet, scattered people, and he lived his entire life in India and didn't have his governmental role at all. And yet every time I saw the Dalai Lama or pictures of him, in particular videos, he was smiling. And my reaction was, what's he smiling about? You know? And in fact, he says that smiling is his profession. And that got me really interested. And I began, and the other thing that he said that finally made sense to me was that happiness comes from the inside and is built on the basis of love and compassion. Now, when I first read it, I thought, well, that's easy for him. He had to have a better childhood than I had, so he knows what love and compassion is too, right? But I finally realized that I needed the love and compassion for myself, because what we have inside, and that, I was in the first book in this series, and I talked about how we live from the inside out. When I have love and compassion in me, for me, then I give that out to others, and it's also reflected back to me. And that's when I began to understand about happiness, and began to have some now, and have a whole lot more now.
I love that, Ilene. It's really interesting. I'm listening to you say, smiling was his profession. And you guys will listen in the interview with Ackalon Hollingsworth. He talks about the sacred responsibility of each of us to be happy and to exude that vibration out into the world. And you can only be that if you give that to yourself, which is the way that you're talking about it tonight too. And I love that idea of it being a sacred responsibility. If you are creating it in yourself, you are creating it for humanity. It is in the world more because you're creating it in yourself. And I love the way that he talked about that too. So what else do you want to say about that, Ilene?
About having it inside of you?
Yeah.
Well, I have been thinking about what happiness feels like to me. And I think we think of happiness as this big elated state. And as I have done, I work with emotions. So as I've done work with emotions, I find that happiness for me is not a big elated state most of the time. It's a calm, joyful, peaceful experience of just feeling good about being where I am, doing what I'm doing. And, like David said, one of the things I decided was my happiness must be out there in a man. And then I learned the principle that whatever, that like attracts like. And I thought, this is me saying I'm missing something. I'm missing happiness, or I'm missing love, and somebody else is going to bring it to me. And I suddenly realized that the chances were greater that I would attract somebody who also had that missing from them. Mm. And so I made a decision to fill myself and my life with as much happiness and joy and love as I possibly could, as if whatever I thought a man would bring me were already there.
I love it. I resonate with that deeply. Thank you, Ilene. Let's move on over to Pam for the same question. So Pam, and I love it, you guys, everyone is talking about their unique journey, and it's so valuable to have so many different voices on these topics, because there are so many people in the world, and we have about 1 billion ways that we can be on this journey, right? Pam, tell me about what this happiness journey has meant to you personally, and a little bit about your chapter.
So thank you, for doing this and giving us the opportunity to share. But I think for me, growing up, I learned very early to just kind of tune in to everyone else. And I thought that I needed to be, do, or say what someone else needed me to be, do, or say. So I had a good childhood. And when I had the invitation to write this chapter, I I was thinking about happiness too, and I went, what the hell do I know about happiness? I've not ever not been happy that I remember, really, or at least for any length of time. Or what does it really mean? So I'm not sure I have that all worked out still yet, but I did realize, I think the journey changed for me. My mother developed Alzheimer's, and my dad died when I was 30. My mom died when I was 52. And it was after that journey and then the breakup of a marriage at 62 that I was going, okay, here I am, supposedly in the prime of my life, a time when I'm supposed to really be enjoying life. And now what am I going to do? Who am I? And what do I want to do with me? So I really kind of had to begin that journey and find that happiness, if you will, for me. I really had to find me first. And that's always, that's kind of a never ending journey, I think, at least for me. And so that's kind of my journey of happiness. I've not ever really been unhappy, but I think I've experienced happiness through everybody else, or at least for a certain period of time.
You said something I think that's important, and it's been coming up as a theme, but many of us were taught what should make us happy by all the different people around us. And of course, you don't know any better. You're going to look to your mom, your dad, your coaches, your teachers, your friends, your colleagues, and you're going to figure it out however you figure it out. But it wasn't until adulthood that I tuned in and asked myself the question, do I even know what I want? Do I even know what makes me happy? And then, of course, you mentioned some pretty significant moments in your life, death of a loved one. You had, the marriage and or divorce. And I've been through all of those things as well. And I think we have to remember, you learn it and then you have to redefine it, and then it changes again, and you have to learn it again, and you have to learn it again and again, right? So I don't know. That's been part of my journey. Is there anything else you wanted to say about that, Pam?
Not particularly about that, but I did want to just share the tool that I wrote in my chapter, and that is the yo massage. I took a couple of the postures from that and walked people through it. And the purpose of that is, for me, I'm a very touchy-feely person. So I kind of think everybody else should be, but not everybody else is. So, you kind of have to be careful, and you have to kind of weigh that. But to me, holding a mindfulness, number one, and then having gentle touch by some other person, I just think that as humans, as these spirits living in this human body, gentle and appropriate touch is very, very important for that happiness, and to bring that well-being and that mindfulness, help us keep within that mindfulness.
Thank you, Pam. So I want to talk about awareness next, and I'm going to go back to David for this one to start off with. Awareness is important. How important do you think awareness is to the happiness journey, and how do you guys practice personally? What's it like for you? I think that when we share a little bit about our own effective practices, we really give people great ideas about things they can try and do. But I'd love for you to share about that idea, David.
Well, thank you. I guess to begin with, I should just explain that I do what I call life mastery coaching, and it's based on a whole paradigm that I call the life mastery paradigm. And it's interesting that you should mention awareness, because awareness for me is base camp. That's home territory. Everything emanates out of awareness. You cannot do anything in your life if you don't have a level of awareness. And part of mastery, part of life mastery anyway, is to elevate that level of awareness to a maximum extent possible, which means you have to go out and experience things, and you have to tune in to what you're feeling about it, what you're thinking about it, what judgments you may have about it, and all the sensations that you feel in your body as a result. And the more you can do that on a regular basis, the more then you can stay in tune to the here and now, which is really where we need to be. Most of the time, many of us anyway, and I put myself into this category, we happen to fall into this ego mind thing, which the ego is always worried about things that happened in the past or concerned about things that might be going on in the future. It's hard for, mind you, it's doing all this in the present moment, but that's about as close as it gets to the present moment. So the whole idea, I think, for awareness is to just notice what's going on, what is true right now in this moment, and try to keep that awareness no matter what you happen to be doing. You don't have to stop and pause and, adopt a particular posture in order to become aware. You can become aware in anything that you're doing, whether it's riding a bike, cooking spaghetti, mopping the floor, giving birth to a baby. I bet most women are very, very aware when that's going on. I mean, I don't know personally, but I believe it when I see it, Anyway, that's what I think about awareness. And I think it's a very important piece of every aspect of life.
Yeah, thank you, David. Yeah, the quote that I've lived by for a long time, with awareness, we get choices. So when you have awareness, you have a choice. And I love to choose happiness most of the time. Ilene, how about you? Talk to me a little bit about awareness and how you practice.
Well, I'm going off 50 Ways to Sunday with listening to everybody.
I know.
Just this past Sunday, I started a blog series of 3 on the Wellness Universe about asking for and receiving help from the universe. And so I'd like to just kind of segue. I agree with what you've said, David, but also what I've learned in working with emotions is that we're all here in a big giant school. We've all come here to learn, and the universe doesn't leave us alone. So this idea of being aware or conscious, if we want our lives to work well, and that will lead us to happiness, we really do need to notice that we're having experiences. We don't have to go have them. They come to us all the time. The universe is hunting us down practically. And if we don't pay attention, then the same kind of thing will happen over and over again, building the pain that's inside of us until we finally say, okay, now I'll be aware. Now I'll be conscious. And so, because most of us humans, we hate change. And when you start being aware and looking at what's going on, you may have to change. And that can suck sometimes, like
it can. Mine was in the form of chest pains, you guys. And I'm going to let Ilene keep going on this, but I had to stop and pay attention.
Yeah, well, we all have divorces and marriages and death of parents and single parenting and marriage parenting and delinquent kids and the job challenges, so we all have them all the time. And of course, awareness is key. Awareness actually gives us choice and helps us so that we don't have to hurt so badly. The hurt and the suffering that we do in life has to do with resistance. Emotions are energy, and energy always has to move. And when we're not aware or we don't embrace the learning, then the energy of emotions doesn't move, and it builds up instead, and it causes us more pain, just like fluid. I've got some fluid right now behind the knee on one of my legs, and it hurts every time I go up and down the stairs, right? I'm about to get it fixed, but nonetheless, it's that same idea that it builds in us.
Yeah, you're making me think a lot about that flow and that movement. You just said the energy of emotions has to move. And that resonated with me because I think sometimes we're not aware at the whisper level of it being stuck. And so that's why I was sharing with you guys. I got to the place where, it was like a pang of chest pain. And I was like, all right, fine, I'll listen about it, like it finally, but if people could just listen at that whisper stage and get back into the flow.
Yes.
So yeah, it would behoove us to listen more, right? Birgit, how would you attack this topic of awareness in your world? How do you practice?
Well, already kind of go right into the chest pain of yours.
Go for it.
So as an iridologist, we know, like Chinese medicine, there are specific feelings and emotions attached to specific organs. So there is no, coincidence when some loved ones who have married for 50 years and then one person dies and then the other one comes quickly and passes away quickly. And most likely they pass on pneumonia or some lung issue. And the lung is associated with the feeling and emotion of grief. And this is nothing new in the holistic world. This is something we have all known. And so chest is about, not feeling appreciated or not being, seen as cherished. And so that's why a lot of times the heart is the first one that makes us a beat faster or slower, and that's the rhythm also with the lungs, with the flow. So that's all attached. And so for me, awareness is when clients come to my office, most of them are more in a superficial area that I have here in this area is when they get to gain weight, for example. They come and they want to know, how can you fix me? And I will be so much happier if I'm 20 pounds lighter, right? But little do they know that when a client comes into my office, I'm going to check out all layers, which means what is going on, like the lymph fluid that you were talking, Ilene, that lymph fluid in the knee. That's my first question I would ask to this client then is there a step you're not taking forward to? Is there a direction you want to go, but you're intimidated to do so, or you're financially intimidated to embark in this area financially, but there's something holding you back? And so you can take this whole message now all over the body. So first awareness is always when you wake up in the morning and think about, how do I feel? Like my shoulder achy or tired? Maybe I'm bearing and holding the heaviness of the world on my shoulder, right? And I wish more people have that knowledge, and that's why I'm happy about this book, because the 25 tips at least will reach other people to teach that knowledge that everybody from us knows. I mean, there's nobody on this panel right now that wouldn't have known that knowledge that I just spread, right? It's so common for us and so simple and understandable, but there's so many millions of people out there who do not know that the body speaks in all layers, spiritually, emotionally, physically. And that's awareness. Awareness is not just that, 10 pounds less and maybe I'll fit in my skinny jeans will make my life happier.
You are so right. This book is a very powerful toolkit for you viewers watching who are getting ready for our launch on February 11th for the Wellness Universe Guide to Complete Self-Care, 25 Tools for Happiness. And the authors offered healing in their stories alone, but they stepped up and are teaching you a practical tool as well, which makes this amazing. And I'm so in love with integrating, mind, body, soul, spirit, as Birgit was talking about. I think that you're right, Birgit. We live it and breathe it. And now it's time that, the larger world understands so that they have these opportunities for deeper layers of healing and to move toward that happiness. Pam, I'm going to give that same question to you now. So talk to me about how important awareness is when it comes to happiness and how you practice.
So I think it's pretty much everything. And that's the mindfulness part that I was talking about earlier, that I think if we sit with that just a moment and we really tune in to our body, to our emotions, our feelings, or somebody was talking about feelings actually being sensations, however that is, to our body, to our mental, to our spiritual, um, beings, then that mindfulness will tell you, if you just sit with it, and like David said, you don't really have to stop and sit with it in that respect. But if you're just aware and you're mindful of your body, of your surroundings, then you can really determine what place you're in. Are you in a good place? Are you in a happy place? Are you not? And if you're not, what needs to change to bring you back there?
You froze up a little bit. I lost your last couple words, Pam.
Mhm.
And so you said, if you're not,
If you're not,
then what?
so if you're not in a happy place, you're not where you want to be, what do you do to bring yourself back
Right.
to that place?
Yeah.
So just that awareness, that mindfulness, always tuning into that, I think helps bring us back to where we really want or choose to be.
I changed the word mindfulness to bodyfulness once upon a time, just so, because I like listening to my body, and I don't really most of the time like what my mind is making my feelings mean. So I kind of just quiet that down a little bit and just sort of, float a little bit in the sensation itself, the bodyfulness. I don't know. We'll get that word going in a bigger way sooner or later. Yeah, David.
Well, first of all, I want to just agree with you there. Personally, I don't like the word mindfulness for that very reason. And this is why I use the word awareness, because awareness has no particular modality associated with it. So you can be aware of the body, the heart, the mind, and the soul.
Right.
So thank you for mentioning that.
Yeah, yes. And awareness is such a big, juicy topic too, that I don't know about you guys, but I could talk about it all day long because I think it's so foundational. So Pam, I'm actually going to stick with you for this last question that I want all of you to answer today. We have our viewers who are watching and listening in, and they get it and they love these topics and they really want to be on this journey with us, but they're still struggling. And man, what a year we have had, all of us, right? So what kind of support or advice would you offer someone who's really still struggling with this right now?
Mine really goes back to that touch. And even if it's touching yourself, there's just something so powerful in touch that it to me, that just kind of brings you back to, if you're kind of out there and lost, if you will, just the power of touch can bring you back, can center you, can bring you back to that awareness, if you will. And so I would just tell people, really become aware or mindful. I know you guys don't like that word as much, but be aware of where you are in your body, in your mind, in your spirit. And if something isn't right, reach out to someone else and find that support that they can help you with. This book is going to be awesome in that particular manner of being able to help people, because there are going to be so many things in there that will help them be able to reach out to different people and find the modality or whatever it is that they need to help them get through things like we've been through this past year.
Yes, thank you, Pam. I just ended up submitting a blog. I can't remember the exact title, but it was something like 5 hug substitutes if you can't get a real one right now. You know, there's a lot of people who can't get that touch from somebody else. And so you have to think about it creatively, right? Yeah, I love that. Ilene, how about you? What would you offer somebody right now who is really still struggling?
Well, I want to make a little statement first. If indeed the world is a big giant school, whatever term we use to describe awareness or mindfulness, what we're really talking about is the importance of us getting enthusiastic about being here on the planet. You know, if we came here to learn and grow and to learn to experiment with different ways that love and not love operate, and we don't use the tools that we have as part of who we are, then it's like we go to the first day of school with a tool in our backpack and we don't even open the backpack. You know, we're really handicapping ourselves. So my emphasis is we've got tools. Just as you're saying, Pam, just being quiet and listening to yourself. Notice that you're feeling an emotion. In my book, Emotions in Motion, I have the message that 12 different emotions give to us. Learn what those emotions are saying to you and partner with them and work with them. Over the years, what I have found is that if a person doesn't enthusiastically engage, make the decision, yes, I'm going to get involved with my life, then nothing works out for those people. It's almost like they're on a layer of air and they don't connect fully with the earth. So an easy way to start is to give yourself permission to be here fully and then embrace whatever comes up in your life. And you can always ask the universe for help. Help me see what it is that I need to learn here. Help me to focus on love. Help me to see how to have compassion for myself and others. Easiest thing, we've got all the tools we need.
Nice. Thank you, Ilene. David, how about you? What would you say to someone who's struggling right now?
I would say, I love you. That's what I would say.
I like that.
And yeah, some people have a hard time hearing that actually from someone else, especially someone they don't know. And that's okay. This is not about making anybody right or wrong, but I would tell people, okay, that's the truth. I love you. Now, what I want you to do is go and stand in front of your mirror and say exactly the same thing to yourself. Because self-love is really the only way that we can move ourselves forward in this world. All the things that we've been talking about here, making use of tools that are available, having a backpack with a tool in it, becoming aware, all of those are about self-love, even though we maybe didn't say it in those terms before. And so my encouragement to everybody, whether you're on this panel as we are today, or whether you happen to be watching this recording, is love yourself so much that you are willing to do whatever it takes to fully express yourself, to know who you really are, and to just say, this is who I am. I am here. And as Ilene says, get that enthusiasm, because as soon as you have that, happiness just naturally shows up, which is what we're all about here.
Yes, definitely.
Yay, thank you.
Pam?
So I just wanted to just kind of add something to what Ilene and David have said. And that is, for me, when people come to that place that they want to do the deep, really sometimes and most of the time hard work, to me, that's when they found that time that they really do want to love themselves, David, and they do want to come around to being in that happy place, choosing that happy.
Yes, nice. Thanks, Pam. Birgit, lastly with you, talk to us about what you might say to one of our viewers who's still struggling with this.
My most common saying would be eat your rainbow. And that is really true. colorful food, and people forget that, especially right now with COVID. I mean, alcohol sales were skyrocketing high, coffee and sugar, and when you feed your body food that's dead or has no vibration, the only emotion you can bring up is negativity or passive moods or depression. So it's really as simple as that, is to fill up your body with high vibration. I think Ilene said that we are spirits in a human body. And so if we're spirit in a human body, what is the best nourishment for us? It's energy. And energy only comes from live food. So if we eat all those boxed up foods and over pasteurized and all that dead foods, then all what we can feel inside is dead. And that really goes back, and that's why I'm saying eat your rainbow, because that knowledge actually comes from my grandmother. I studied everything about nutrition, and she just recently passed away at 99. And I said, Grandma, how do you know what is the best diet? There's so much going on, right? And she says, eat your rainbow. And I never forgot that. That exactly clarifies everything. This is the diet. So if you eat your rainbow, you're having more vibration, and a body that wants to be happy needs high vibration.
I love it. Yes, Eileen.
Well, I just want to add one thing that is in my chapter. It's about what we pay attention to. Birgit, you're talking about paying attention to eating healthily to bring energy in. Most of us have learned to pay attention to our problems and the issues that we want to overcome. And I just want to share the principle by which I live and which I've taught people, which is to pay attention not to what you want to overcome, but to what you want to become. When you're focusing, when something comes up, you focus on what you want to become. What you want to overcome just atrophies and drops away. It's not hard work.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much for what you do in the world and for being here today to share it with everybody. Seriously, you're badasses.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Birgit, where can everyone find out more about you?
I have two websites. My practice one is birgitcare.com. And I'm also teaching other people about iridology. So I'm an instructor for iridology, and that is my website called centerforiridology.com.
Awesome. Thank you. And don't worry, viewers, we've got you hooked up in those show notes down below with everybody's website so you can explore a little more. Eileen, how about you? Where can everyone find you?
My website is emotionalmasteryforlife.com. And I also spend a bit of time on LinkedIn under Ilene Dillon.
Awesome. How about you, David?
My main website is yourlifemasterycoach.com. And you can also find me on the Wellness Universe. I spend a lot of time there.
Yeah, of course, everybody, when you come on over to the wellnessuniverse.com, you're going to find all of our authors. They all have a Woo profile, and you can click on their names and find out more about them there. Of course. Pam, where can everyone find out about you?
Yeah, they can go to sacred-space.biz. That's my website. I'm also on Woo and Facebook and Instagram at Sacred Space OK.
Awesome. Thank you. So everybody, this amazing book that you're hearing a lot about today is going to be available on February 11th, 2021. Yay, I know. And if you are listening to this before that date, you need to come on over to the Circles of Inspiration page on Facebook on the 11th, because we are going to have a live stream launch party with giveaways and all kinds of fun that day. And of course, if you're listening after the 11th, well, that means the book is available. So go on down to those show notes and grab the link on Amazon and you can get your own copy. And you guys, I love to end the shows with a big juicy question. So here goes. What if there is something you haven't learned yet about happiness that could change everything? I think this book has a few of those somethings, you guys. Time to be brave about it. Thank you, everybody. See you soon.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Love what you heard today. Don't forget to drop down and hit that subscribe button, you guys, and then join me over at bravehealer.com for just a little bit more healing badassery. Have a great one.